Hey everybody, here we are on day 3 at Invictus. This time we're going to be going and seeing Roberts Space Industries, which is RSI, looking at all of their military ships. So you might or might not have noticed that Cloud Imperium Games, which is the people making the game, have a website called Roberts Space Industries, and that's kind of an in-lore nod that in theory when you're interacting on that website you're interacting with an in-game company that builds ships, and so they produce ships themselves, but they're also kind of a ship wholesaler, which is why you can buy ships on their website in game. And so Roberts Space Industries was in lore founded by Chris Roberts, and the very first ship that had a quantum drive on it was an RSI ship called the Zeus. So of all the ship manufacturers in the verse, RSI is the oldest, and so it kind of has the most storied history out of all of the manufacturers in the verse. Incidentally, already also has the creator, Chris Roberts. Let's try that again. Has Chris Roberts' name attached to it, so no pressure on the devs, right? So let's see if it spawns in. Yep, there it goes. So the 2-button push on the elevator seems to work every time. I don't know why. Maybe 30% of the time it works every time. But so Roberts Space Industry, they build sort of a wide range of ships. And let's get away from this guy because he blows out my audio. Also figured out why the Perseus wasn't showing up in the Aegis Day, and that's because it's an RSI ship. Somehow I forgot that. RSI kind of has a unique design back in the early days of the Connie, and even in the current days of the Connie, the Constellation. The cockpit, the bridge, is called a strut pit, and that's just because there is absolutely no surface that they felt like didn't deserve more struts. They're kind of my hope was that they would start going more the direction of the Aquila, which I'll show you in a second. These are the 4 constellations right there, and then the Manus right there. We'll go over all of them. I was hoping that they'd either go the direction of the Constellation Aquila or the Mantis in future works, and you'll see why. And they kind of did with the Scorpius. I'll show you that one too. That's what I was flying in on. So let's see what they got down below. Oh, that's right. So this is actually more than just RSI Day. We've got Consolidated Outlands, Argo, and Origin. So this, because Invictus is a military show, they're going to have a greater focus on the military vehicles, of course. So they're not going to have things like the Pioneer or the Mole or the 890 Jump. These are just going to be their military or combat focused ships. But let's go on with RSI first, since they're the biggest of the lot. So the first RSI ships that we got access to are the Constellations. So I am going to start with them. And if I can find the Andromeda here, it's kind of the gold standard of the Constellation line. Then we'll swing back and we'll do the Mantis in this one. Just kind of wanted to show you why they call them strut pits. So this one over here is the Phoenix, the Constellation Phoenix, and it's kind of the luxury yacht style. It's probably closest in function. I'm assuming this is the Andromeda here. I'll be able to tell you in a second. Yeah, this is looking like the Andromeda here. So it's closest in function to the Andromeda. It just has upgraded shields and components, and it has things like a hot tub and a VIP executive room, whereas the Andromeda is more utilitarian. Let's see, and I'll bring it back here. So the other difference is the Andromeda has a P-52, while the Andromeda has a, oh damn, what do they call it? It's sort of the upgraded version of the P-52. It's kind of cool. It's a little bit faster. It has 4 lasers as opposed to 2 lasers and a big minigun on the front of it. Yeah, let's just take a quick jump up here, because once you've seen one of these, you've kind of seen them all. See if I can get up here without breaking a leg. So we go up. One of the cool things, this is an old ship. Game-wise, it was one of the first multi-crew ships they built. I think maybe the Freelancer built it out the door, but it's kind of cool because it actually has an airlock built into it. This is the strut pit. So when you're flying the ship, this is your view, is just nothing but struts. So when I start showing you the Aquila, you're going to see what I'm talking about. It has a lower turret there, upper turret there. Components are all up in here. It's got a table built into the floor that doesn't work yet, but eventually that'll come up, and so you can sit and eat food here. Well, maybe it does. Maybe I'm just not the right angle. See what happens if you sit. If I get stuck, I'll cut and come back. See if it'll actually let me call up the table. No. All right. Well, it's worth a shot. You got lockers over here. I think this is the shoilet. Yep, there's your shoilet. These are your bunks, and they double as escape pods. So that's kind of cool. And I'm going to show you this. It's pretty dark in here, so... Oh, that's right. I took my helmet off. Hang on. Let me put my helmet on. Didn't realize all these lights were going to be off. Armor. Put that on. All right. There we go. So keep in mind how big that cargo pod is, because that will matter in a second. So you've got... One of the things is, with the recent release of the Legionnaire, which is that boarding craft we saw on day 1, that's an access point. That's an access point right there. This is a potential access point right here. So this thing is wide open to pirates. Just be aware. And if you can blow up turrets, that's another access point. So actually, I must have missed that in the memo somewhere. So these are your components back here. So they're not by the bridge. Interesting. Okay. And then if you get into that, that's your that's getting into the Merlin right there. Okay, so let's get out of here. Yeah, we can go this way. What the hell? See if it'll actually let us down. Man, it is dark in here, isn't it? We'll do it here. See if we can find the button here. Been a long time since I've done constellations. They're not bad ships. I can't find the button. I'm assuming it's probably on one of the arms. I just missed it. They're not bad ships. They have some pretty big guns. All of them do. And the Andromeda, which is the one that we're on right now, just has a ton of missiles. Actually, I could show you that. So, come back in here. These are all the missiles it carries. So, yeah, this thing has a lot of missiles. And it's got big guns. So it's not an easy ship to tangle with, even if you're flying it solo. If you've got two people to man the turrets and another person to get in that P-52, this is a reasonably nasty ship to bump into. Fighters will fly circles around you, but you got 4 size... I think there's 2 size 4s and then 2 size 3s, and the 3s are on gimbals, but you can pull the gimbals and make them size 4s too. So, I mean, pretty nasty combination of ships. I'm not going to go in this one, but I am going to compare it. This is the Taurus, so this is the extended cargo version. It doesn't have a snub attached to it, so there's nothing back here except for a hidden storage compartment. But if you look at the size of this cargo bay, it's roughly twice the size. I think the Taurus is going to be a pretty underrated exploration ship, because you can carry a rover and you can carry as much cargo almost as a standard Connie. So the Aquila, which is right here, and I am going to show you the cockpit on this one, is the exploration version. So it only has a turret on the bottom and the top is a scanner. Other than that, it's largely the same. But it was designed with this as opposed to being cargo, you'd put a rover on there. And if you park an Ursa rover on here, you have almost no room at all for cargo. Don't remember these being as high as they are, but typically these land flush with the ground. But I was kind of hoping in the gold standard of the Connie line, they were going to go with cockpit designs that were more like this. So let me get around this chair. So there's still struts, but doesn't quite feel as claustrophobic as the Taurus, the Phoenix, and the Taurus do. It's just a little bit more open. And when I get into the Manus, you'll see that they took that even a step further, so we'll go check that out. I believe the Taurus also has fewer missiles than the Andromeda or the Aquila. So yeah, that's the Phoenix, and it does have, I think it does have a cargo bay. Almost have to. Well, I'm not going to rent the thing. You'll just have to trust me on that one. But let's go ahead and check the Manus over here, because I want to show you this cockpit real fast, because it is nice. Yeah, and this is one of the weirdest entrances. It has this little tiny elevator right in the middle, as opposed to having a let's see, where's the button to get in? It's right there. Yeah, up. So you can sort of see the buttons right there. So in this one, there's almost no struts at all. It's just a wide open glass canopy, which is brilliant. And when we got the Manus a few years back, a lot of us were saying, oh, well, of course they're going to adopt that. And when they go back and do the gold standard on the Connies, this is what it'll look like. Surprise! Here we are. They still might do it. So the Manus, its whole purpose in the verse is to lock down quantum travel. So if you've ever been interdicted if you've ever had security or pirates stop you, they're interdicting you. And this ship, its whole purpose is interdiction. Comes with the bed, I think. Yeah, it's got like a coffee machine and food. I personally, one of my friends, I think this is the Shoilet. Yes, okay. So never trust a ship that has a bed and a food production facility, but no Shoilet. So with that in mind, and that cockpit in mind, already saw the cockpit on the Scorpius. Scorpius is the fighter that believe it was concepted not that long ago. It's a pretty new ship. I think they only concepted it last year. So they turned it around pretty quick. You can see that its cockpit is more similar to the Manus than the Constellation series. You get into it from the side. It has the big guns on the top. So it's got 4 guns on the wings and then 4 guns on the turret. So this compares to the Anvil. Now I'm trying to remember who actually has it. But the ship that has the turret with the 4 guns and then the 2 big guns on the top or in the front. This one has 4 small guns, and then the turret's basically the same thing. I think it carries more missiles. And in theory, the armor is going to be better on this. And so the only way they're going to be able to balance that is by making the Scorpius less maneuverable than it is right now, or make it more maneuverable in atmosphere than it is, and less mobile in space. I don't know how they're going to balance it out. I honestly don't. Maybe they won't. Maybe it's a much larger ship, so maybe that's the trick they're going with. So they're just going to say it's easier to hit. I'm not seeing that one's open. Is this one open? Yeah, it looks like this one's open. Okay, so we'll go over here. Maybe here I'll run so we're not stuck out here. And I keep missing ships. They're kind of hidden, but it doesn't look like I'm doing that this time, so we'll keep going. I believe this is going to be Argo and probably Consolidated Outlands out here. Again, we got to drool over the F8 Lightning. One day. Probably after Squadron 42. Well, in we go. So again, this is the military expedition, so you're not seeing, or, yeah, so you're not seeing anything but the ships that are used by the military. So a lot of these manufacturers have a lot more ships. It's just, you're not going to see them in a military group here. So we'll start over here with Argo, which is much beloved one, although a lot of people, much like the Redeemer, it kind of has a love-hate reputation. So what it can do is these are basically modular. Not even basically modular. So you can see the ship is actually this part, almost like a sky crane. And then it can pick this up. And then this one carries personnel. So it carries 6 people. So this thing is the shuttle the military uses. And if you see this, this is actually the life raft of the, I believe, the 890 Jump and probably several other ships. So this is basically a life raft right here. And the Argo is designed to carry it, but in this case, when it's just carrying it, it's not been launched off another ship. It's basically just a drop ship in a way. And I think all 3 of these are personnel. Yeah, these are all personnel, even though the military would have a use for using a cargo ship just to move around weapons and supplies from ship to ship, you would assume. I mean, armies move on logistics. So this is the Mustang Delta, and it is unique. It's got a bit more armor, and its kind of claim to fame is those rocket pods. And I think it's guns are a bit bigger. It doesn't have a back, I don't think. I haven't been in one of these for a while. So actually, let's open it up and see. Let's get in the pilot seat and we'll see if we can actually look behind us. I don't think it does. I think they probably excuse it as saying that it has armor. Let's look back. Can we? No, that's as far back as we can get. Let's see. When I get out, no, it just throws you out. So it actually doesn't have an interior. I think only the Mustang Beta does. So you can sort of see there's a door back there, but I'm sure they're saying that that's armor. A better option, especially now that it's been redesigned. This is the Origin 325A, and this is a surprisingly nasty ship. It would be kind of like someone in Mad Max turning a BMW into a into one of their war cruisers. It's just it's pretty maneuverable. It's got decent armor. It's really nimble. But on top of all of that, it's got a kitchen, wine glasses, a place to store food, a bed. It's got the usual, I don't think that's a toilet. I think that is only, yeah, that is only a toilet. So make sure you wipe. And let's pop out. So the 325A, if you want something that's not quite the meta, but it's still, it can hold its own. I would say this is one of those that if you were looking for more combat than the Titan, this is a good step up from the Titan. The Titan carries cargo, obviously. But yeah, 325A used to kind of be a joke. It's not a joke anymore. So this is the 120A. Let me look at this. See if I can do this without bumping this guy out of the way. 125A. So this is the combat version of the 100 series. And honestly, I think the only thing that makes it combat is the fact that it has 2 missiles. So, yeah, if you're going to get any of the 100 series, get the 135C. It's the only one that's actually worth it. You're not going to be fighting anyone in this. It's fast, it's nimble, it's a great little starter. But if you're going to get one of the 100 series, either go cheap and just get the 100A or get the 135C. Don't get the 125A. That's my advice. Those 2 missiles, they're not going to kill anything that you're worried about attacking you. If you're attacked by someone in an unarmed ship, or if they're trying to attack you with a knife, the 135C or the 125A is a good fighter for that. Otherwise, avoid. So let's go. Let's check over here. I think it was only the 1 wing, so I'm not going to run all the way over here. I think everything else is downstairs because those manufacturers don't have a lot of combat ships. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'm giving up. If I miss something, you can let me know in the comments. Let's pop on over here. Yeah. People always drool over the Phoenix. I just don't get it. It's not a terrible ship. It's just at its price point, there's much better ships at everything it does. Oh, wow. Well, the NPCs really want us to go downstairs. Look at this. It's like pod people. I mean, am I missing something here? Is there something cool going on? What's up, guys? Were you waiting for me? I'm not that cool. They're waiting for me. I'll sign autographs on the way out. So let's pop down here. So they'll have a couple ground vehicles. Wow. So this was the PTV, the little golf cart, was the first land vehicle we got. This is the Ursa Rover, and it was the second. It's still still a pretty good size. It's still a relevant little ship, just because the Spartan, which carries the 8 people, it's the other APC. I think it has 8 wheels, is about almost twice the length of this thing. So the number of ships it fits in is really small. Whereas this ship carries, I think, 6 people. Yeah, 6 people. So it's got 4 jump seats and then 2 seats up here. It's got 2 size 1 cannons that sit on the side right there. They'll roll up on top on a turret. It's pretty mobile, and it reminds me of that old game, the side scroller. What was it? Moon Assault or something like that, where you're in the little. And I mean, seriously, look at that old Atari game and look at this thing, and somebody was inspired. It can't do the little jumps like that rover could, but all in all, not a bad rover, and is about the only thing you can get that'll be that size and carries that many people at this point in time. And I'll show you the other one, I think. Oh no. Okay, so this is the this should be the Legionnaire, which is the combat version of the this is the LN, which is the Legionnaire. So this is the combat version of the Aurora, which used to be kind of a joke. It's not really a joke anymore. This ship in the right hands actually isn't terrible. I mean, it's never going to be the meta, but it's decent. It's got a good mix of missiles on it. It's got 4 guns, so it doesn't have great maneuverability. I don't think it has a bed. Let's check. Yeah, let's get in. See if it'll let me in. There we go. Okay, just want to make sure that yeah, it's actually got a bed, so you can log out in this ship. So I mean, all in all, it's not a bad combat vessel. It's just at its price point. It's pushing the point where for a little bit more you could get an Arrow or a Gladius or something like that. So most people just kind of skip over it. But all in all, it's kind of one of those deceptive ships. Like people see an Aurora, think it's a joke, and then that thing opens fire on them. They're like, oh, okay, that is not what I thought it was. The Mustang Delta can kind of have the same effect, because people don't fly them because they're going to do dogfighting. They're going to get the Arrow or the Gladius, and so when you see those ships, people aren't as used to fighting them. This is the G12A. Okay, so this one actually has anti-air missiles on it. Carries 2 people inside of it. This is Origin's answer to the rover you saw out there. The difference is that I think even the regular non-combat version only carries 2 people. So small rover, think of it that way. Let's go over here. So this is one you'll hear people talk about a lot. So this is the Polaris. This is sort of I'll get to the other side so that we don't get this logo in the background, because this is a really pretty ship. Knight 55, Knight v Knight. This is sort of his dream boat right here. So this is a Corvette, and kind of the king of the Corvettes. Think of it as Star Citizen's answer to an attack submarine. It mostly is known for the big torpedoes it carries, size 9 torpedoes, but it's also got a ton of these little turrets on it. So this thing can really defend itself. And I think if you look, I think it's got at least 2 of these, which are defensive turrets, so it can shoot down torpedoes that are shot at it or small craft that are bothering it. And it's kind of hard to see. Let's go into third person here and I'll see if I can show it to you. Oh, well, that's fortuitous. Let's take a look. So you can sort of see, whoops, messed that one up. Let's try that again. You can sort of see right there where that yellow stripe is, right in the middle. That is actually a landing bay. And one of the things that John Crew said in the recent ship shape back at the beginning of the year was that landing bay is now going to be a large landing bay, so the same size as the one that you'd find on the Misk Odyssey, which is a huge ship. And this one isn't small either. I think this is bigger than the 890 jump. So when this thing drops, it'll be about the size of the Banu Merchantman. So it's going to be an enormous ship. It's bigger than or at least the same size as the 890 jump, to give you a sense or scale. And I think minimum crew on it is 7, in that range, maybe 12. It's a big ship, and its bridge has 4 stations, and you can see the turrets on it are all manned. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3. I think there's a 4th and a 5th turret on the back. So that's 5 people right there. You're looking at least a pilot up front, maybe an engineer in there. So yeah, I mean, 7 is probably the minimum you could get away with. If you're trying to solo a ship this size in the verse, you're definitely doing it wrong. My opinion on the Polaris is that is probably going to take a backseat to the Nautilus, the ship that I showed yesterday, and the Perseus, which I'm assuming is on the other side of this wall. Just because both of those ships in the lore came around much earlier. Those ships are hundreds of years old, whereas the Polaris was rolled out after the events in Squadron 42. So since CIG is focusing on Squadron 42, they might roll out those ships first to have them in that game, and the Polaris might take a back seat. The only reason I think the Polaris might leapfrog those two is because it's a really popular ship and it's much older in the actual concept sale. Although CIG has said a few times now that they're not governed by when it went on concept, and the Banu Merchantman, which went on concept pretty much right after or right during the Kickstarter, so 2014, is just now in production, to give you a sense. But I think this ship, they said they were going to work on it next, and then they started working on the Banu Merchantman. Those two switch spots, but they had already done some work on this, whether it was just concept work or they had actually started building it out and sending it into gray box. It's hard to say. So this might end up leapfrogging just for popularity and the fact that they've done some work on it. But if not, don't be surprised if this one jumps over it. So this is the RSI Perseus, which I thought was Nietzsche's ship. But you can sort of tell it sort of has the RSI bridge up there. This one is interesting because it's probably, I wouldn't say half the size of the Polaris, maybe 2/3. It's smaller than the Polaris, probably, I think, smaller than the Hammerhead, but it has a working crew of 3, and that'll put a person in this turret down here, a person in this turret here, and a person on the bridge. I think you might want to have, if you were running a full crew, maybe 6 people. Might be able to get away with 5, so you'd have an engineer or something like that, maybe another person on the bridge. It also carries, I believe, some size 5 torpedoes. But whereas the Hammerhead is made to kill fighters, this thing is made to kill bigger ships. So anything, think Constellation bigger, Constellation size and bigger, this ship is made to kill. So one of my plans is, since Knight, who's my buddy, has one of these bad boys, I've got a Merchantman, which also packs a pretty mean punch. Pair that with the Polaris and one of these and a Hammerhead, and that becomes a kind of nasty Death Star that hopefully, oh, and a Nautilus, to kind of put a minefield around you so that if you suddenly turn red in a minefield, you're in trouble. The goal would be to have it that someone that is trading with would see that and say, I would rather trade with that than blow that up. That's the thinking there. Oh, this is the SRV. We're looking at the backside of it. So this is the actual tugboat in the verse. So this is the front up here. I'm not sure why they had the other ones all facing that way and this one's facing this way. Let's see if I can actually light it up. No, I can't. So this is the cockpit up here, and it's got big tractor beams. Turn off my lights, it's not doing anything. It's got big tractor beams back here, and so its whole purpose is to lift heavier ships out of atmospheres and move things like that around. I'm assuming it can also double up and move bigger cargo containers around. Might be another thing that this one does, would be my guess. But think of it as a tugboat. Its main job is to pull things much larger and heavier than itself around or up out of the atmosphere. To pull a ship like an Idris off of the ground, you might need 6 of these things. We don't know because this is just a concept and they haven't really delved into how powerful it'll be. This one is actually in, I think production actually starts on it next month. When I do the roadmap roundup, I'll take a look at that and see when it's actually starting work. It's a smaller ship. I think it's smaller than a Freelancer by a fair bit. So somewhere in between an Avenger and a Freelancer. This thing might even be Avenger sized. It's not a big ship. It just has powerful tractor beams. And so that one's another Argo ship, which is kind of the, man, I'd almost call them the Caterpillar of Star Citizen. They're the people that kind of make all the utility ships. Like they make the ones that carry around the cargo containers, like single cargo containers. They make the mole. I'm sure they're going to have refinery ships that are like that, but interesting that they put the SRV in a military group and not have the cargo variant of the MPUV. But anyway, so that is all of these guys. Let me take one more look and make sure that I'm not missing a section here. And if so, that is RSI, Crusader, and Argo, and Origin. At least they're combat focused ships. Take one more look here. And yep, that's it. So we saw everything. So that'll do it for this one. Quick roundup. So see me next time.